Good evening, all you night owls and early worms. This is a Reading Rage Inc. movie analysis for Late Night with the Devil. So for all you TV and film buffs, you horror whores, and even those interested in the human psyche, this film ripped itself a new seat at the cult classic table. If you're the type to watch director's cuts, director's commentaries, behind the scenes, you'll be captivated because you get a special treat with this film. You get to see how an actual 70s late night show had stage rigging and production details. And also, before we move on, I want to say thank you to Liquid Death, our unofficial sponsor. With notes of bergamot, with vitamins B6 and B12, this grim leafer will murder your thirst. Hashtag death to plastic. The special effects on Late Night with the Devil are to die for. And the audience, on and off camera, is often left questioning what's really happening and what specters and spectators are actually real. The Cairnes give us a nostalgic feel, which with each reel, with each shot in a different form, whether it's black and white or providing multiple camera angles like a real actual television studio from the 70s, we get different shots each time to keep it interesting. However, be warned, because this is not a happy ending. From the directors Cameron and Colin Cairnes, this cautionary tale bores deep into the soul, only to worm itself back out again, showing how greed is conditioned learning and love is just a four-letter word. So David, as Jack Delroy, our main character, a power-lusting late-night TV host, pines for a spot at number 1 on the television show charts. But what he gets is a visit from a few old friends, a few new friends, and some old lovers that ends in a side-splitting dark comedy and horror. Alright, gals and ghouls, I want to say I do have a theory. And it isn't mentioned in the film, but I believe that the masked skeleton figure in the audience could be one of 3 things, okay? 1, death, an homage to Edgar Allan Poe in The Mask of the Red Death, which goes back to my idea of killing those in the audience who worship money and entertainment, which I'll later say. 2, it could be a surviving member of Lilly's cult. Or 3, Jack Delroy's cult member, who was targeting him, I think, from the beginning, and may even be connected to Lilly's cult. I'm not sure. It could be the same cult, or he may know, or he may not know, but this person was sent there to interrupt June's trance, to cause Abraxas to escape. So, Delroy is a man willing to sacrifice the women he loves in order to join the ranks of power, and we see him push anyone to get what he wants. So for instance, as gory and bloody as this film ends up being, with the body count going from like 0 to 60 quite rapidly, we find ourselves ultimately saddened by how Delroy uses the women in this movie, right? So we see a young girl, Ingrid Torelli, as Lilly, and how she's metaphorically raped by those meant to protect her during each phase of her youth. From being a victim of one cult to being adopted by another. Laura Gordon is June Ross Mitchell, who turns out to be Delroy's lover. We see how she's used. As being a protector, we find that these characters are all very morally ambiguous, from Delroy using all the women to even Laura Gordon, the so-called mother figure, right? And protector, who ends up being just another power-hungry person. So June Ross Mitchell ultimately uses Lilly and her torment as a tool to get rich and famous for her boyfriend, Delroy. She goes and gets Lilly, and Lilly goes basically from the hands of one cult to another, an apt metaphor for parents who pimp out their children to get money by using their bodies. I mean, the entertainment industry, even nonprofit organizations who use children or people and minorities to get money, but don't really help them. Next, I want to talk about Lilly. So Lilly is this really resilient final girl. She goes from the hands of one cult to another, right? And even the sacrificial dagger that's used to kill her cult family, she uses it to free herself by the end of the movie. And like Medusa, defending herself from her rapists and abusers, Lilly's snakehead is not on her hair, but in her soul, granted to her by the gods to brutally murder the cult of money, the cult of entertainment, and those audience members who paid to go to a late night show to see a young girl exploited. And we, the outside audience, might even end up on Team Lilly Abraxas once the last curtain falls. However, I do have to say some of the adults in this film are the good guys. We do see one of my favorite characters, a foil to Delroy, his co-host, an actual family man who warns repetitiously, might I add, to stop. And he almost gets to leave the show. So shout out to another one of my favorite characters, Rhys, as Gus McConnell, who was our canary in the cage throughout the entire film. Next, I want to talk about our cast and crew and some of the colors that we're going to see. So, David Dastmalchian is our villain in the film, but did you know he was in The Dark Knight as a villain? He was also in Prisoners, alongside heavy hitters Papacitos Jake Gyllenhaal, Hugh Jackman, Terrence Howard, Paul Dano, and the lovely Viola Davis. He also gets to star alongside her as an anti-hero in this movie, Suicide Squad, alongside Papacito Idris Elba. He is a host of Grave Conversations, very intimate show, morbid, macabre, and interesting. Coffin Conversations. He's a badass lead in Murder Robot, based off of Martha Wells' novels, alongside Papacito Skarsgård, and he is also a director, with the Boulet brothers and their Holiday of Horrors anthology special, and it is released by AMC and Shudder, who Shudder also released this film alongside IFC Films. I'm going to focus on some people that I haven't talked about yet. So Fayssal Bazzi is Christou, our projectile vomiting medium, a foil to our skeptic, Carmichael Haig, played by Ian Bliss. And then Phil is our man behind the scenes, played by Christopher Kirby. On camera, but the real people off camera behind the scenes are cinematographer Matthew Temple, production designer Otello Stolfo, costume designer Steph Hooke. They really make you feel like you're on Johnny Carson looking at a late night 70s show. And then next, our director and writers Cameron and Colin Cairnes. They are amazing. They have this Australian movie I wanted to tell you about, 100 Acres. It's very Tucker and Dale versus Evil, very Shaun of the Dead, Hotel Hell vibes, sardonic, black comedy. I'm looking forward to whatever they do next, honestly. So I just wanted to say, be warned. Whether you're a man, a woman, a non-binary, remember, divine feminine is beauty. She is your terror. She is your horror, not your whoa. So act right, because if you stalk her, she might just stalk you back. Thanks for joining. This is a Reading Rage live, but it's not live. But I'm alive and undead. See you next time, guys.